Hi, everybody. Peace. Welcome to the STBY basketball show. Wherever or have you're listening, we're so grateful to have you with us. As you guys know, I'm Gashan Cottle, and we've got a wonderful show for you today, guys. We're going to be discussing the reasons for why Notre Dame has struggled for this season, so far this season, and whether those issues are uh, a byproduct of something bigger going on in the culture of Notre Dame, or if it's rather just a blip in a mere rare mediocre season for Notre Dame women basketball. So without wasting any time, guys, we're going to go ahead and get right into it. But before we get started, if you haven't already, be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button as well, so you guys can stay up to date on all of our latest content that we post daily. And if you'd like to gain exclusive content from us over here at STBY, you can do so by going to patreon.com, clicking on the search bar, typing in STBY. That way, you get access to all of our exclusive content that we post daily. All of our links are in the description below. So, with that being said, guys, let's go ahead and get right into it. As the question says, why has Notre Dame struggled this season? For those who don't know, obviously Notre Dame has been one of the elite powerhouses in women's college basketball for the past 20 years and then some. However, this year seems to be a bit of an aberration for Notre Dame due to the struggles they've had so far. So far, Notre Dame's currently sitting at 12-6. They're 6th in the ACC. Most recently, coming off two losses against number one UConn, in which they lost 85-47, and another loss to number 9 ranked Louisville, in which they lost 79-66. And if you watch Notre Dame all season, one of the struggles they've had has been their ability to score the ball. And the reason they've struggled with scoring the ball is because they don't have a lot of players on the team that can create shots for themselves. And what happens is when you have an elite player as in Hannah Hidalgo, who I should say has made an elite and amazing progression into her development as a point guard. But when you have an elite player like Hannah Hidalgo, who's the only one that can create shots for not only for herself but for other people, it puts a lot of pressure on Hannah. And what happens is teams obviously they start to shift more that attention, shift the help side to wherever Hannah is at, and that's causing Hannah to exert more energy when creating shot opportunities within the half court. And Notre Dame did bring in Vanessa DeJesus, a point guard from Duke, who transferred over, and Vanessa has stepped into that more of a two guard position. However, Vanessa is used to primarily playing point guard position. But the reason that's the case is because Hannah has turned into a point guard, and so what happens now is now you get less of the scoring that we normally get from Hannah because now she's playing that primary point guard position, and now you have Vanessa, who is primarily point guard, now playing the two guard position. So now the positions are a little bit out of sort, and that coupled with the fact that Notre Dame this year and for the past 4 or 5 years has struggled with their lack of depth. Last year specifically, Notre Dame had, in my opinion, I say this all the time, in terms of just pure talent, one of the best starting fives I've ever seen in women's college basketball history, with Hannah Hidalgo, Olivia Miles, Maddie Westbeld, Sonia Citron, and Leah Tu King. 3 of those players played in the WNBA last season, and 2 of them are going to be top 3 picks in this upcoming WNBA draft. And I say that to say, outside of that, they didn't really have much depth coming off the bench outside of Kassan Prosper and KK Bransfield. And that has been a consistent issue under Neil Ivey-led teams at Notre Dame. And when it comes to the NCAA tournament and conference tournaments and making deep runs, you have to be able to go at least 8 deep, specifically in the ACC, especially with a team like Notre Dame, who likes to get up and down the court, who likes to create pressure defensively. That type of system that you run calls for more depth because players get tired quickly. And that's why you see a lot of injuries within this Notre Dame program. You saw that Maddie Westbeld had a couple of injuries, nagging injuries, I say, her senior year. Sonia Citron also had a couple of injuries. Olivia Miles off toward ACL, and if we keep going farther, if we keep going past that, Kylie Watson, when she was at Notre Dame, also had ACL tear. And if we keep going past that, Dara Mabry, also another ACL tear. So it's been a consistent theme where the Notre Dame starters have had injuries, and I believe it's due to the wear and tear. And the reason they have so much wear and tear is due to the lack of depth. And whether that's because what Neil Ivy sees in practice, she doesn't trust her reserves, or whether it's lack of recruiting. But Notre Dame has to do a better job of using their depth or bringing in players that can be an addition and be used off the bench. And another reason that Notre Dame has struggled this year is due to their inability to get stops defensively also. And we can go what Notre Dame is known for doing, running their defense. They run a 1-1-3 that turns into a 2-3 defense matchup, and that's something they've done proficiently over the past couple of years. But this year they struggle with that because they can't really get a lot of pressure at the top. We obviously know Hannah leads the top of that 1-1-3, but with Vanessa De Jesus, who's a smaller guard but still active defensively, you don't get the same hands in the passing lanes with the guard that has the length of a guard like a Sonia Citron or an Olivia Miles. So you just don't get as much ball pressure at the top of the key, which leads to more scoring opportunities for the opposing team's guards, and also creates more dribble penetration. And so that's why Notre Dame has struggled as well this year. And obviously losing Olivia Miles this year has been a bit of an issue, or has hurt Notre Dame as a team overall. But however, I have been, like I said, extremely impressed with that transition to learning how to be more of a point guard. She'll never be a complete player, even though she's a talented player, one of the best players I've seen in women's college basketball. She'll never reach her full potential until she learns how to be a point guard. And if not, then we shouldn't call her a point guard. We should call her a two guard, and that's totally okay also. However, I've been extremely impressed with what I've seen from Hannah Hidalgo and her development to a point guard. She's learned to pick her spots better, which is kind of ironic. This year, I would want her to be more aggressive than what she's been, due to the lack of talent she has on this team. But she has much more control when she gets in the paint. She's done a great job of drawing in penetration and now creating shots not just for herself but also for her teammates. Also, her turnovers have gone down. She's only averaging 2 turnovers a game. But if you look at her usage rate, it's quite high. So her assisted turnover ratio is also 5 to 3, which I think is pretty great due to her usage rate. And we have to also be able to accept the fact that this Notre Dame team is also just not that good compared to the talent that's in the ACC. With, like I said, with Louisville, with UNC, with Duke, who, though they haven't played very well, though they're not ranked highly, they compete each and every night. And in my opinion, Duke is one of the 25 best teams in women's college basketball. They should be ranked. That's another discussion for another day. But compared to the elite teams in ACC, Notre Dame's is not on their level. And if we look at the elite teams in the country, Notre Dame doesn't match up well with them either. We look at what happened when they played against number 14 ranked Michigan. They lost 93-54. They lost 69-62 when they played Ole Miss. But however, we must add that they did beat number 11 ranked USC at the time. But I think we all can say now that USC is not as good as we thought they would be, even though they are ranked number 11 currently. And like I led off the show with, they lost also number 9 Louisville and number 1 UConn. Notre Dame did. So we have to also be accepting the fact that Notre Dame just isn't very good this year. However, I think what this is really a byproduct of is the inability for Notre Dame to capitalize on the elite level talent they had last year. is, and if I didn't have hold Notre Dame and Coach Neil Ivey to such a high standard, I wouldn't I wouldn't think twice about it. I wouldn't think about it. But knowing the elite coaching talent that Neil Ivey is and the elite program that Notre Dame is, it's unacceptable that Notre Dame only finished, and I say only close because that's the standard, because their standard is so high. Uh, they only finished with a Sweet 16 appearance last year with that starting five they had. Like I said, with Hannah Hidalgo and Olivia Miles and Sonia Citron and Maddie Westbeld and Leah Tu King. It's unacceptable that they only finish with the Sweet 16 appearance. There's no doubt that that team should have made it to at least the Final Four, let alone a national championship game. And what happens is when you don't capitalize on those moments, it normally comes to back. It backfires at some point down the road, and you end up losing, in my opinion, the best point guard of women's college basketball, Olivia Miles, and now you have to work with what you have. And the talent is good on Notre Dame, but it's not up to the level of elite talent that we're used to seeing at Notre Dame. However, Notre Dame still has one of the best players in women's college basketball in Hannah Hidalgo, and with Hannah on her team, you always have a high chance, or a heightened chance, I'll say, of making a deep run, not only in the conference tournament, but also in the NCAA tournament. And it's very interesting to me that hasn't been discussed within the media, specifically what Notre Dame failed to do last year. But if Notre Dame continues to struggle this year, we have to now start thinking about whether this will affect their recruitment process for them. Because obviously, in my opinion, I believe Hannah's leaving after this year. I believe she should. So after this year, you still have Kassan Prosper, who I believe will stay for another year. However, we have to start thinking about that for the future, how this affects Notre Dame. And I know a lot of people just aren't used to seeing Notre Dame play at or be in a state of mediocrity. But it's not. I don't believe this is consistent, I don't believe will be the norm moving forward. Something that Neil Ivey has done a great job of is recruiting, obviously bringing in top level talent. But now Notre Dame and Neil Ivey has to either be willing to use the depth that they have, or do even more recruiting and bring in players that they trust that they can play. Because with the style of offense, the style of play that they run, where they like to create a lot of pressure defensively and they like to get out on the break, that calls for more energy to be used by the players, which means another edition of our STBY basketball show. That being said, guys, another edition of our STBY basketball show. That being said, guys, that's it for our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until then, continue to stay safe, vigilant,